Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Keynote for Zoom Academy 2021. I'm Jane Ross, a MIA Education Lead at Zoom, and we're excited to have you join us today along with Gill Ferrell. Gill has worked in the field of technology-enhanced learning for many years. She ran a national advisory service for the UK and now supports communities of practice across Europe. She has a particular interest in assessment and design, as well as feedback, learning spaces, and analytics, and is the author of widely used guidance materials on these topics. She holds a dual British-French nationality and lives in Southwest France. Gill, welcome.
Hi, Jane, and thank you very much for inviting me to join you. The last 18 months has been challenging for everyone. Many businesses have had to put activities on hold, but that's not possible in education. Learning can't stop because our buildings are closed, so the education sector has been under unique pressure to accelerate its digital transformation journey. And now's a great time to take stock of how we've moved on beyond the initial crisis and what we've learned that will help us enhance learning in future. My perspective comes from my pan-European roles working with education providers and technology suppliers. I work with two partner organisations, UNIS, an association of European universities, and IMS Global, a non-profit association that develops edtech standards. There's much overlap in our communities, the main difference being that UNIS focuses on higher education, whereas IMS covers the whole spectrum of lifelong learning from school onwards. And edtech use in Europe is varied. Institutions didn't go into the pandemic starting from the same baseline. There's a session coming up soon with colleagues from NTNU in Norway, and on the right here you see one of their world-class technology-enhanced learning spaces. This was in use at the same time as teachers elsewhere were still using this rollerboard and overhead projector, and the other photo is proof that German engineering stands the test of time. We've seen digital leaps right across Europe and great success stories made possible through effective use of technology. And the key to this hasn't been any one or two technologies, but rather how technology is integrated into a well-designed learning experience. The institutions that adapted their learning practice to succeed in the new context are those that had a strategic approach to their digital infrastructure and were building on industry good practice and recognized standards. They were the ones best able to scale up online learning and add new tools in a seamless way. The use of technology to enhance learning has really stepped up a gear. So-called blended learning has been the norm across much of education for some time. The notion that some learning is face-to-face, conversational, uses paper-based resources, and some learning is supported by digital tools and resources has become so commonplace that the term blended learning doesn't really have a lot of meaning anymore. What's innovative about recent developments is the move towards hybrid learning. In blended learning, there's a mix of face-to-face and digital, but digital learning is generally asynchronous. In a hybrid situation, some learners who are physically co-located are learning and interacting in real time with remote participants. That's a big challenge, both in terms of learning design and the infrastructure needed to support it. Hybrid learning was developing before the pandemic. UNIS runs an award program for effective use of technology in physical learning spaces, and the 2020 winner was KU Leuven University in Belgium with this hybrid classroom. Hybrid learning was developing in quite specific areas, often subjects such as business, where students were combining study and work, and where there are many international students in the cohort. When there were no students on campus due to the pandemic and teachers were encouraged to work from home, the teachers still preferred to come to the building alone and use this classroom rather than teach from home. Roll forward a year to our 2021 competition, and the winner was the University of Amsterdam, with a hybrid lecture theatre created as a direct response to the pandemic. They took an empty hall, sometimes used for exams, as seen in this picture, and they turned it into this cozy and welcoming space for a teacher and a small number of socially distant students. They worked with theatre designers to create a real sense of presence through varied camera angles and high quality audio input from each seat. The hybrid element comes in via the Zoom wall, where there are up to 100 other participants at a time projected in for an interactive experience. Feedback from students and teachers has been excellent, and the success of this pilot has led to other implementations of what are effectively pop-up lecture theatres with a small live audience and many more remote participants. I think this is a development we will see replicated elsewhere. In the short term, we aren't going to be packing students into crowded lecture theatres, but equally, it could be a longer term answer to many problems. Real estate costs are high, and many learning providers are questioning the value of creating large theatres that only fit a particular mode of learning. Often, a hybrid pop-up solution would meet requirements that only occur for a few weeks a year. An example is nursing, where large cohorts are only together for short periods of time as students do most of their learning on placement. Hybrid learning also fits with the sustainability agenda and the desire to cut carbon emissions. For many learners, it offers a way to combine learning with other commitments more easily, but unlike many previous online or blended experiences, it recognises the fact that learning is fundamentally a social experience. The digital transformation of learning brings challenges, particularly around equity for all learners. I suggest that these challenges have always existed and that digital tools are more of a solution than a problem. The use of digital tools and resources can bring enormous benefit to people who have particular needs: screen readers for the visually impaired, subtitling for those who have difficulty hearing or who are studying in a foreign language, the ability to change font size and colour for people who suffer from dyslexia. People who struggle to keep up in a traditional classroom setting can find they have greater control. Digital tools remove barriers to learning, so long as we design learning experiences keeping in mind the accessibility of the tools, and we help learners to discover how to adapt the tools to their needs. More importantly, accessible learning design benefits everyone. International students, working parents, someone with a short-term illness may benefit from the same features that make life easier for someone with a permanent disability. The caveat is that this can only help people who have access to the tools and resources in the first place, so digital poverty needs to be addressed. Equity of access to equipment and especially bandwidth can be problematic in rural areas, but even with connectivity available, not all home learners have a space where they can work and concentrate uninterrupted. And I've highlighted here just a couple of reports from the UK where this issue is very much at the fore. Another topic that has long been an issue is the mental health and well-being of students. And pre-pandemic, the statistics were already alarming. An OECD report from 2018 says that in the EU, 1 person in 6 suffers mental health problems. In France, suicide is second only to road accidents as a cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds. The pandemic has worsened the issue and brought it sharply into focus, but we shouldn't think the problem is new or that it will go away as soon as learners get back into the classroom. Moreover, students who are suffering won't necessarily open up and seek help more easily in a face-to-face setting. There's much good work going on to investigate how digital tools can be part of the support infrastructure. A student's digital footprint can highlight a lack of engagement that suggests someone should check on their well-being. It's a sensitive issue. We are increasingly and rightly concerned about privacy. And I particularly like the approach taken by Fontys University in the Netherlands, where their quantified student programme describes its approach as Big Mother rather than Big Brother. Students sometimes prefer to deal with an artificial intelligence rather than approach a person in the first instance. We're seeing good use of chatbots as personal digital assistants to help in all sorts of ways, but also as a means of helping students with mental health issues and pointing them to sources of guidance and support. And I've tried here, as in the last few slides, to point you to some reference sources you can follow up. As we get more familiar with both fully online and hybrid learning and understand more about the capabilities of the tools, we are getting more ambitious about the kind of learning experiences we want to create. We have gone beyond the initial scramble just to get any kind of contact with one another or any learning resources online to want fully collaborative experiences. We're starting to make hybrid learning a truly social and creative experience. Here you see a high-tech classroom known as the Supercharged Education Space at Tilburg University in the Netherlands. It's another UNIS Award winner that makes excellent use of technology to create a fully interactive hybrid learning. However, you don't always need high-end equipment to make learning experiences more interactive. There's no one-size-fits-all solution to meeting the diverse needs of different learners and subjects, so we really need a set of tools that can work together. I'd like to show you as an example the learning curve that UNIS itself has gone through over the last year or so. The seriousness of the pandemic became apparent a few weeks before our annual Congress in 2020. We cancelled the event, and we got immediate feedback from our community about how disappointed they were, how much they wanted some form of get-together. Happily, Zoom came to our rescue. We approached the European team, we got the most fantastic support to move our event online. And bear in mind, we'd never done anything other than simple webinars before, but using Zoom, we managed to set up and run a week-long event for over 500 participants. We should have been in Helsinki, so we tried to bring a bit of Finnish culture to the event. Did you know that the Finns have been the happiest people in the world for 4 years in a row? We had guided mindfulness breaks, a fitness instructor to lead us through stretching exercises in case we were sitting too long. We had some great conversations in our virtual sauna. It was a huge success, but we were nonetheless looking forward to Greek sunshine and hospitality in Athens come 2021. Sadly, that didn't happen. Early this year, we realised we'd need to do another online event. The difference was, in the meantime, I attended Zoomtopia. I just loved what Zoom had done with the interface, the graphics, particularly the interactive marketplace. It felt way out of our league to try anything like that, but it gave me just a little bit of inspiration to explore what might be possible. And we ended up building our own Greek island. We found a tool called GatherTown that has excellent Zoom integration. It started out as a platform for online parties, but the developers have now seen the potential to support things like meetings and conferences. So there are many preset environments, but we wanted something that reflected our virtual hosts. We were originally hoping just to make our supplier marketplace interactive, but on exploring the possibilities, we used it for all manner of collaborative sessions and social events. You can see an overview of the island here with our supplier stands, and you might just be able to spot tunnels and caves that take you to different environments and activities, basically different Zoom rooms. It's not easy to show the interactivity from static images, but hopefully this will give you some idea. You walk around the island as an avatar, and as you approach other people, you see them on camera in Zoom. So on the left-hand picture here, the avatars are relaxing on the sun loungers, and the people you can see in the videos at the top of the screen. You can enlarge the videos so it feels more like a normal Zoom meeting, as in this right-hand image. And there's a mix of private areas where you only see and hear the people in that space, and open areas where you just wander around and bump into people for spontaneous conversation. And in a minute, I'm going to show you a link to a very short video that demonstrates this. One of the caves took us to a virtual tour of the National Museum of Athens. The tours were at set times so that the participants were able to interact with the staff of the museum in real time. Here you see us in the museum. You'll see the guide in a moment. And when we get to the end of the tour, it happens very quickly. You see how easy it is. Just one quick click to go back to the island. There it is. And then the avatars are now in the museum entrance in our cave. And we're following this avatar Phil as he takes a walk outside. He's back on the beach. He approaches some people sitting at a table on the beach, and you can see them show up in the video. He says a quick hello to them, and then he wanders off to join another group. So there's a different set of people having a conversation at the blue tables, and they're showing up in video now. And if you look to the red tables at the left, you can just tell by those little speech bubbles that there are other people having a conversation in a different private area that you can't see and hear at the moment. And this next slide shows how we used our taverna area to structure conversations in a workshop type format. We had groups at each of the different coloured tables, and within their groups, they were able to work on collaborative tools such as Padlet to record the outcomes of the session collaboratively. We also used it as a social space. The year before, we had a great Zoom quiz. This year was even better because we were able to do the quiz in teams of 4 to 6 people from different countries. It's a very rapid overview, but I hope it shows how this integration of different tools could help support the learning experience for all ages. We created a fun environment for a serious academic conference, but it would be equally good as a creative learning environment for school children. We were able to do it because of a bit of inspiration to make us think about the art of the possible, and also because the stuff just worked. This wasn't a major technical development. We were able to use tools we were already familiar with and integrate them very easily. You might say, as if by magic. Of course, the magic doesn't just happen. It's underpinned by 2 elements: good learning design and open standards. Standalone systems no longer meet our digital expectations. We want to be able to use a range of tools as part of an ecosystem. The more we see the benefits of digital technologies, the more we want them to be able to work together. As well as enabling learners to interact with one another, the technology needs to allow them to interact with learning resources, undertake assessed assignments, exchange grades and feedback, and ultimately demonstrate success by means of a verifiable digital credential. Hardware, software, and data need to work seamlessly in order for this ecosystem to function. And this is where standards are important. Some standards we take for granted. You can buy AA batteries anywhere in the world, and they work in any device that takes AA batteries. Learning interoperability, however, hasn't always been so easy. IMS Global has been advancing interoperability in the edtech world for over 20 years. It's a non-profit membership association where the key stakeholders, suppliers, education providers, and government bodies work together to develop open standards. Here you see some of the standards that allow the digital learning ecosystem to function. LTI in particular is what Zoom uses to integrate with all the major learning platforms. Using products that are certified against recognized open standards allows learning providers to be confident that they are investing in products that will work together and that they meet requirements as regards accessibility or privacy. It allows you to build the ecosystem that meets your needs, so you can combine products from major international suppliers like Zoom with niche products from small startups. And as I said earlier, stuff just works. The other key to the magic is effective learning design. We need to rethink the design of learning activities to make effective use of the tools at our disposal. I say learning activities because simply consuming information in whatever format often doesn't constitute the type of active engagement that really enhances learning. For each of our desired learning outcomes, we need to consider what kinds of activities are best suited to delivering these outcomes and what types of tools can help. And nowhere is this more important than in assessment and feedback. Assessment is the main driver of student activity. Students are motivated to learn what they know they need to pass the course. It's also the area where both students and staff are most afraid of change because the stakes are so high. This can lead to a mismatch between innovation in teaching and the continuation of traditional assessment forms. We also tend to think about accessibility and equality as about access to content. And I'd like to see that broadened to be about how individuals can demonstrate their achievements, about allowing increased flexibility and choice of topics and media to be assessed. So I've given you the magic formula of effective learning design and open standards, and I'd like to end with a practical call to action. ABC learning design is freely available and widely used across Europe. It's a simple tool, deceptively so because it encompasses a vast amount of education research, and it can be applied to any type of learning. The basic approach creates a storyboard of learning and assessment activities using prompt cards. And fans of the technique have found ways to adapt this for online design when it's not possible to get together as a group. The other call to action is to require all of your edtech tools to comply with open standards. I invite your organisation to sign the Standards First pledge. This initiative is bringing education stakeholders together to commit to putting open standards at the heart of their edtech ecosystem. Because less time spent making integration work means more time spent on enhancing learning. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you'll be able to take inspiration from some of these success stories and to make use of some of the resources. And my contact details are here if anyone wants to find out more about any of the topics that I've raised today.
So Jill, tell me your thoughts on whether or not that digital poverty issue is going to move people to rush back to the classrooms as soon as they can and leave all of this virtual learning behind.
It may be a driver in some areas, but I don't think it's the only one. I think people will want to rush back to the classroom. It's just a natural kind of human reaction, really, after what we've been through. So I think we will see that. And I think it will be, if you like, a kind of dead cat bounce, that people will go back into the classroom and then suddenly start to realise how effective, how efficient some of this online learning was for them. So I don't think we've got a straight road ahead. I think there will be hills and corners to turn, but I don't think everything is ever going to go back to exactly the way it was before, and that's probably a good thing.
Agreed. Well, thank you, Jill, again for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you.